With the increasing number of home extensions as well as conservatory roof renovations each year, we're seeing more and more opportunities for customers to be able to gain more daylight and more fresh air through the use of VELUX roof windows. Unfortunately, what we also tend to see is very often these roof pitches are less than 15 degrees, which, as you'll know, is the minimum pitch for a standard roof window. So as we're only needing to elevate the head of the window, we can actually use the standard installation brackets at the base of the frame, the ones that are supplied with the windows themselves. At the top, we would use the brackets supplied with the ELX adapter flashing. And if you've ever fitted any of our replacement flashings, you'll see the design is something that you're familiar with. Now, we are limited as to the height that we can elevate this window to ensure that we still have suitable overlap between flashings and claddings. So 50 mil is the max we can lift this. Now that does mean, based on the length of the window, you'll have more or less of a roof pitch. So we are looking at anything from about 1.5 degrees increase on our longest windows of 1800 millimeters to as much as 4 degrees increase on some of our shorter windows. So that's something to bear in mind when planning this. The easiest way I find to obviously get the installation height correct is to mark a little 50 mil mark on the bracket itself, and then you're just going to line that up with the red line that's on the side of the window. That guarantees that you're not going above the maximum. For this type of installation, we can still follow VELUX best practice principles, meaning you can still purchase our BDX insulation collar along with the BFX underfelt collar as an option rather than trying to insulate and felt around the window yourself. What I've done here is I've taken the insulation away from the metal frame of the collar itself to ensure that I can still pop it around the window. And all I've had to do is any part of the insulation that protrudes above the batten just gets trimmed back so it stays nice and flush and doesn't hamper the installation of the flashings a little later. What I'll do next is now pop the underfelt collar around the window. So with the side flashings now in place, you can start to see the potential issue we would have if we just carried on as things are. The gap here is quite a lot smaller than the gap at the top where the window's starting to rise. This is why we need to now use the ELX adapter flashing, or at least parts of the flashing kit. That's going to help us bridge the gap here. But because that kit is designed to go on a replacement where the window's actually running parallel to the roof, we need to make a few little adjustments at the base to allow it to follow this new angle of installation. So if this was a standard replacement, our ELX flashing would now just slide into the return on the side frame cover and we slot this onto the frame. But you can see here, this just can't work in this scenario because it hits along the base of the flashing. So we need to make a little fold at the base. So we can see here, for this particular installation, I've just had to come in 100 mil and then fold that back on itself. Now, if you wanted to cover all options, certainly the smaller windows with a steeper incline, you could come back 150 and that would work in any installation. So all we do is, as before, slot that into the little fold, bring that round, and that just rests on the frame as standard, and then pop that in, and that's it engaged, ready for the top flashing to go in place. Now, any time that you use the ELX adapter flashing, you actually have to fit some of the final parts out of normal sequence. Normally, next step would be to fit part 6, your top cover, and then finally you fit part 7, which is the last piece of flashing. But because the elevation's been raised here, we actually have to fit the top flashing first. What we have to do before we do that, though, is to get it to sit as tightly as possible, we just crimp the edges of the aluminium as tight as we can so that it sits tightly against the frame. Then before we fit it around the top, we just make sure we folded these edges around, and this simply then slots into place and just rests on top of the side flashing. Then we're ready to fit the part 6 on top. Now, because there's quite a large gap, we have this extension piece that naturally has to bridge the space that we have left at the top of the window. Now we just pop that on and hold it into place with screws in its normal installation method. With the flashing in place, all that would be left to do now would be to clip the side flashings down as normal, continue the tiling around the window and finish off that area, and then just to pop the sash back in, which is what I'm going to do next. We hope this video has been of benefit to you. But if you require any further advice or support, please feel free to contact our customer service team. And likewise, you can also download installation instructions or find further product information on our website.